Number 9. Mommy war spirals out of control. Ashley Berger and Christina Barkley were next-door neighbors in the Cleveland suburb of Euclid. In 2004, Ashley's teenage son asked Christina's daughter on a date. She turned him down, and he allegedly began bullying Christina's kids. Christina tried talking to Ashley, who refused to believe the accusations against her son, who told her that Christina's kids were the real bullies. The problems between the families only worsened from there. In early 2005, Ashley and Christina made plans to talk, but when Christina went to Ashley's house, nobody answered the door. She saw Ashley's boyfriend outside, so she tried talking to him about the ongoing issues. Ashley rushed out of the house and accused Christina of trying to hit on her man, and things quickly escalated into a full-blown fistfight. Police were called to the scene, but both women declined to press charges. Christina made plans to move, but before it could happen, she came face to face with what she later described as carloads of Ashley's relatives. Complete mayhem broke out between the two families, and witnesses later described seeing as many as 20 people going at it in the street. At one point during the fight, Ashley retrieved a knife from her kitchen and ran back outside, where she stabbed Christina and her sister, Vanessa McMorrick. Vanessa died from her injuries. Ashley, who was pregnant at the time, argued in court that she acted in self-defense after someone threatened to harm her unborn baby, but insisted she didn't mean to kill anyone. The jury acquitted her of murder, but found her guilty of manslaughter and aggravated assault, and she was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Number 8. Deadly father-son duo. In a shocking act of violence that was captured on camera, 37-year-old Aaron Howard was shot to death outside his home in Abilene, Texas during an argument with his neighbors in 2018. The deadly disagreement started out as a petty spat days earlier when Howard put an old mattress in a dumpster outside their apartment building. He found the mattress back in his yard the next day, so he returned it to the dumpster. His neighbor, 67-year-old John Miller, threw the mattress back into Howard's yard. It's unclear why Miller had a problem with the mattress being in the dumpster, which was where it was supposed to go. Howard confronted Miller and it quickly escalated into an aggressive shouting match. A disturbing video of the face-off recorded by Howard's fiancée, Kara Box, showed Miller threatening Howard with a pistol. Moments later, Miller's 30-year-old son, Michael, appeared with a shotgun. Howard yelled at the pair to put down their weapons, but the fight only became more heated. In an attempt to de-escalate things, Kara tried to get between the two parties. But the Millers opened fire on the couple, fatally striking Howard and narrowly missing Kara. After years of court delays, John and Michael Miller are scheduled to go on trial for murder in 2023. They plan to argue that they acted in self-defense under the state's Stand Your Ground law. Kara stands by her belief that Howard was needlessly murdered in cold blood and told reporters that she wants people to know the truth about what happened. The outcome of the case remains to be seen. Number 7. Controversial congresswoman's hot-tempered husband. Born-again Christian Lauren Boebert rose to fame in 2019 for shamelessly voicing her highly conservative political views. The mother of 4 who lives in Colorado with her husband Jason and their 4 sons was elected to Congress the following year. One day in 2022, neighbors asked one of the Boebert children to stop speeding dangerously on their residential street in his dune buggy. Jason Boebert got involved, and things escalated quickly. 2 neighbors dialed 911 and reported that Jason was acting belligerent, irrational, and threatening. One caller accused him of running over their mailbox with his truck and refusing to leave their property. Given the family's reputation for being gun-obsessed, some residents were worried about the Boeberts possibly being armed. The 911 callers sounded genuinely scared in audio recordings of the conversations obtained by the press. But when law enforcement arrived, the quarreling parties said they had agreed to work things out amongst themselves and that they didn't wish to press charges. Responding deputies left the scene, and that seemed to be the end of the bizarre incident. It wasn't the Boeberts' first brush with the law. Lauren was previously accused of disorderly conduct, failing to appear in court, and careless driving. In 2004, Jason was convicted of public indecency and lewd exposure for allegedly exposing himself to young women at a bowling alley. Between the couple's controversial past and political views, it would be surprising if they don't make any more wild news headlines in the future. Number 6. Delusional diplomat. 55-year-old gay rights activist Julian Aubrey was a respected community member despite his struggles with addiction, so people were shocked when he was found stabbed to death in his London flat in 2017. Investigators initially wondered if the murder was motivated by homophobia or if Aubrey's drug use somehow led to violence. They soon learned about a long-standing dispute between Aubrey and his neighbor of 20 years, 48-year-old Enrique Facelli. Starting in 2015, Facelli lodged several complaints with their landlord, claiming that Aubrey was leaving feces in the hallway of their building so that people would blame Facelli's dog. He also claimed that Aubrey was trying to poison him. Murder investigators found no evidence to back up these claims and realized that the problems between the neighbors started around the time Facelli lost his job as a diplomat at the Uruguayan embassy. Facelli had worked there for many years when his mental health spiraled out of control to the point where he could no longer do the job. Shortly before the murder, he spent a month in a psychiatric hospital, and his condition continued to worsen after his release. Facelli believed Aubrey was planting deadly chemicals in his air vents and even paid an investigator to sweep his apartment for listening devices. He also accused Aubrey of worshipping Satan and practicing black magic. It was all in his head, and the delusions caused him to believe that killing Aubrey was the only way to protect himself. Facelli pleaded guilty to manslaughter with diminished responsibility and was sent to a psychiatric institution. Unlike prison, there's no minimum attached to the sentence, and he could see freedom again if his condition improves. Number 5. A fatal obsession. Mike and Teresa Woodby moved to Union County, Tennessee with their young grandson in 2010. The couple heard constant gunfire from across the street where their neighbor, Kevin Wagner, operated a private firing range. But they tolerated the constant noise until Mike experienced sudden heart complications. After his release from the hospital, Mike asked the Wagners to tone down the shooting for a few weeks while he recovered. Kevin thought Mike was trying to boss him around, and it sparked a years-long feud between the families. Wagner claimed the rivalry started after he refused to illegally sell Mike a gun, but he went suspiciously out of his way to torment the Woodbys. He filmed the family constantly, accused Mike of disability fraud, and even wrote to the media with his concocted sob story. Several people witnessed the alarming behavior, including a school bus driver who became extremely concerned for the safety of the Woodby's grandson. Wagner said he was filming his neighbors to gather evidence that they were harassing him. In reality, he was trying to push Mike to his breaking point so he could catch the explosive reaction on camera and use it to bolster his victim narrative. The families called 911 on each other over 300 times over the years as the Woodbys repeatedly begged Wagner to end the war, but he refused to call a truce. He finally ended the rivalry in 2013 when he snapped and shot Mike Woodby to death. Investigators recovered a plethora of incriminating evidence against Wagner, including video diaries detailing his obsessive desire to kill Mike Woodby. He's currently serving an 18-year prison sentence for murder, which he could have avoided by simply leaving his neighbor alone. Number 4. Garbage dispute takes a disturbing turn. Lakeisha Broomfield and Sydney Harris lived next door to each other in Allen, Texas, and they didn't get along. Harris didn't like how Broomfield parked on the street in front of her house, and Broomfield accused Harris of screaming at her kids and throwing rocks at her vehicle. At one point, she caught Harris using a garden hose attached to her water supply and called the police. During the 2022 holiday season, Broomfield's outdoor garbage cans ran out of room, so she put some of her trash in Harris's cans. Naturally, it led to a confrontation between the women. Harris would later claim that Broomfield shoved her to the ground twice in an unprovoked attack, while Broomfield argued that she acted in self-defense. At some point during the altercation, Harris got into her vehicle and plowed into some garbage cans, and then into Bloomfield, sending her at least 6 feet before she hit the ground. The incident was captured on surveillance footage, and police arrested Harris on suspicion of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Harris told local station WFAA that she didn't mean to hit Broomfield and that she suffers from a medical disorder that affects her mobility. She declined to say much else, and her case is ongoing. Broomfield said that she suffered a concussion from the incident and that she suffers from ongoing physical symptoms along with anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder. She told reporters that she just wants her life to be peaceful and plans to move. Number 3. The Mansa murderer. Peggy and Pi Carr married in 1988 and settled down on a remote property in Polk County, Florida, with their children from previous relationships. Their only neighbors were a chemist named George Treppel and his wife Diana, who was a doctor. The Treppels, who were members of the high IQ society Mansa, kept mostly to themselves. One day, Pi Carr received a threatening letter in the mail telling him that they had 2 weeks to leave Florida or they would die. The couple wrote it off as a teenage prank. 3 months later, Diana Treppel complained to Peggy about her family's loud music, and the two got into a heated argument. Not long after that, Peggy began experiencing terrifying medical symptoms. Her hands went numb, her legs were in excruciating pain, she thought she was having a heart attack, felt like she was on fire, and started losing her hair. Her son and stepson also fell mysteriously ill. The boys survived, but Peggy lapsed into a coma and died 5 months later. Doctors discovered suspicious amounts of a highly toxic chemical called thallium nitrate in all 3 patients. Suspecting that the family was poisoned, state and federal authorities spent the next year investigating the case. During a search of Treppel's garage, they recovered bottles containing traces of thallium nitrate. George Treppel denied murdering Peggy, but he was found guilty and sentenced to death. More than 30 years later, he continues to maintain his innocence from death row. Number 2. Jail guard puts job on the line. Just days into the 2023 new year, police in Little Rock, Arkansas responded to a complaint about unknown trouble and landed in the middle of a dispute between neighbors. 20-year-old Christopher Slay told police that his downstairs neighbor, 24-year-old local jail employee Brandashia Hargrave, had complained about him making noise and started hitting the ceiling in an attempt to get him to quiet down. He went outside and told Hargrave that hitting the ceiling wouldn't fix the situation. Slay claimed that Hargrave threatened him, so he returned to his apartment to grab his gun and went back outside with it hidden under his arm. In the meantime, Hargrave also retrieved a gun and allegedly threatened to blow the young man's face off. Hargrave confirmed that the two were arguing over noise, but claimed that she told Slay not to speak to her when he confronted her outside. The two parties each denied pointing a gun at the other and claimed that the other party had pointed a gun at them. Part of the incident was captured on video, and Slay showed police photos of Hargrave holding the gun parallel to the ground but not pointed directly at him. Hargrave was charged with 1 felony count of first-degree terroristic threatening and is on administrative leave from her job pending the outcome of the case. Number 1. Video game dispute leads to violence. During the week between Christmas and New Year's, one of the busiest times of the year for law enforcement, police in Lafayette, Indiana, responded to a call about an altercation between neighbors. When they arrived at the scene, the caller accused his neighbor, 46-year-old former NFL player Chikizi Chiki Okafor, of barging into his house and confronting his son about a video game the two had been playing together online. The neighbor said that he told Okafor to leave, but instead of complying, the retired athlete physically attacked him. Family members broke up the fight. Police took Okafor into custody on charges of battery with injury and residential entry. He was booked into the Tippecanoe County Jail, but records show that he's no longer there, which means that he most likely bonded out or was released after seeing a judge. Okafor has yet to comment on the case. Thanks for watching. Would you rather live next door to someone who makes constant noise, or a home nudist who never closes their curtains and spends a lot of time outside but is extremely quiet and respectful in every other way? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.